Welcome to the dialogue on demystification of Vatsyayana Kamasutra between two evolved souls of Sreeja Ponnam and Isaiah. Sit back and relax.
Kamasutra, perhaps the most important handbook for generations to those who are practicing samsara yoga or family tradition. However, Kamasutra is not just limited to samsara yoga alone. Kamasutra teaches the art of living and how to attain saturation, the soul connection, and soul consciousness, which is even more important during the current pandemic.
Sreeja, what does Kamasutra mean and what does it convey?
Well, Isaiah, Kama is the fire element of the faculty of personality or ego, and Sutra means the formula. The fire element, being in the middle of the five elements, has the unique characteristic that it can spread very rapidly on either side. That is, toward the sky, as well as into a body of water. A step-by-step procedure of a formula, when applied and followed to any situation, will yield the same results. Hence, Kamasutra means the application of the step-by-step approach of the formula to the faculty of personality. Since the faculties play a crucial role in the execution of karmacharan or action, Kamasutra also means the application of the formula into karmacharan towards saturation. In other words, by practicing Kamasutra, the personality will blossom. The faculty of personality is linked to the vessel known as Annamaya Kosham. A blossomed personality will not exhibit the extreme variations of the temperature cycle and uses the contents of Annamaya Kosham sparingly and judiciously. This reflects a state of contentment.
Kamasutra is not just limited to sex or lovemaking or samsara yoga, as often depicted. These days, the term Kamasutra became synonymous for eroticism or sex. This is because for several centuries, the sutras or formulae that were mentioned in this ancient scripture were distorted. In this context, it is important to define the terms love, sex, and eroticism. Do they represent the same qualities, or are they different, Sreeja?
Well, love means unconditionally transferring waves of heartfelt feelings. They emanate as a result of a revolution of the heart chakra, or anahata chakra. That's why we say, love just happens. It is a spontaneous expression of heartfelt feelings. And the expression of love is a natural quality of all living beings, including plants, animals, and humans. When the waves of the heart chakra between two individuals overlap, love blossoms between them. For example, an infant is adored by everyone because of the combination of their unconditional, unadulterated nature and innocence.
Then what is sex?
Well, Isaiah, sex is an action or karmacharan performed towards establishing a harmonious state through the use of these universal masculine and feminine energies. The universal mother and father are devoid of physical bodies and enter the bodies of the individuals who are participating in the physical act.
The terminology of sex needs to be elaborated further in the context of the legalization of the LGBT community.
Well, there are three polarities of energies in this universe, namely positive, negative, and neutral energy. Positive energy promotes constructive activity or promotes the practicing of dharma. The negative energy promotes destructive energy or the practicing of adharma. On the other hand, neutral energy elements possess a distinct quality of practicing dharma or adharma as the situation demands. Neutral forces are the balancing elements in this universe.
For the rotation of the wheel of Dharma to continue, clockwise forces are as important as anti-clockwise forces. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna reiterated the same thing.
Paritrana yasadhunam vinasaya sadushkutam dharma samstapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge.
Whenever there is an imbalance of forces, I will create sufficient number of neutral elements to restore the balance. Krishna said he would remove the imbalance. The balance is reached in the universe when the clockwise and anti-clockwise forces are equal and opposite. The same balance even exists today. How do you explain the acts of terror in spite of heightened security and intelligence? It is driven by the same balance. How do you explain the presence of wheat plants surrounding a fruit plant or flower plant? Isn't it the same balancing act, Sreeja?
Yeah, you're right. An individual soul may choose positive energy before assuming a physical body. After assuming the body, the faculties perform karmacharan in the positive energy direction. This is known as a matched state of karmacharan. Karmacharan or action in the same energy polarity direction as that chosen by the soul is known as a matched state. On the other hand, an individual soul may choose positive energy before assuming a physical body. In this case, the faculties may perform karmacharan in the negative energy direction. Karmacharan or action in the opposite energy polarity direction as that chosen by the soul is known as a mismatched state. A matched state leads to soul enrichment and saturation, while the mismatched state leads to the depletion of soul energy and a vicious cycle of insurmountable problems.
How do we define male energy or female energy?
Well, ideally, the male and female energies represent the neutral energy form.
Oh, so based on the terminology of energy, can we make an attempt to address the act of sexual intercourse and the offspring generation?
Yeah. As previously stated, the ideal male and female energies represent neutral energy. However, during the act of sex or prior to that, there may be small ripples of the mismatch generated, or there may be a difference in the neutral state of the two individuals. The neutral potential of the earth is different than the neutral potential that we see in household appliances. This is also similar to that. The deviation from the neutral state is what triggers the act of sex. The energy deviation from a neutral state and an energy mismatch, differences between the participants are the parameters that dictate the length and intensity of sexual intercourse. The act will terminate when both participating individuals reach a neutral state. This concept is the same across all species.
So, Sreeja, what happened to the energy mismatch and the deviated energy from the neutral state of the participating individuals?
Well, Isaiah, the quantity of that energy is being selected by a particular soul who is seeking a physical body under those given conditions. In other words, if the act of sex is performed in mismatched conditions, the offspring who assume the body will predominantly perform mismatched karmacharan. Such an individual is not soul conscious and has a hard time becoming saturated. If sex is performed in a matched energy state, the offspring will be an evolved soul who practices and promotes soul consciousness. Similarly, depending on the energy polarities of the participating individuals and the net energy, that is, if the net energy is positive, then the new soul will choose positive energy. If the net energy is negative, the new soul will choose negative energy. If the net energy is zero, the soul would perform karmacharan in a witness mode. This explains why some children are hyperactive and some others behave matured. The gender of the offspring is determined based on whoever is triggering sex. That is, if intercourse is driven by the male, then the offspring will be female with genes mainly from the male participant. Similarly, if the act of sex is driven by the female participant, then the offspring will be male with genes mainly from the female participant. The energy concept can be further extended to the LGBT community, but the only exception is that there is no offspring.
Wonderful lecture on sex education. Tell me, what does eroticism mean?
Well, eroticism can be defined as the upper limit of sex. The universal mother and the universal father possess unconditional and infinite strength of potency. When the universal mother and father are unconditionally invoked into the physical bodies, and they reach a peak level of participation, sex results in a state of eroticism. In this state, the individuals having sex will remain as mere spectators and operate in a witness mode. The control is steered by the universal mother and father, establishing harmony in the universe.
It seems love, sex, and eroticism all have origins in the spiritual domain. They are not limited to the physical world as widely perceived by many. This narrow-minded and conditional view will result in not only misuse of Kamasutra, but can yield dangerous results. Can we see a specific example, Sreeja?
Yeah, Isaiah. About 500 years ago, in the village Talapaka of the Kadapa district in the southern state of India, Annamacharya was born. He got enlightenment and subsequently composed 32,000 erotic compositions on Lord Venkateshwara. He applied a new technique in which he was a voyeur who peeped into the bedroom where Lord Venkateshwara was spending private moments with his consort, and this was the imagination and fantasization of Annamaya. The erotic acts of the Lord and his consort were well composed. Even after 500 years, these compositions are well received by the audience. The freshness and the originality of these erotic compositions was not shaded nor unadulterated. The reason for this is the forces participating in the erotic act were none other than the Universal Father and Universal Mother.
Through this book, titled Demystification of Vatsyayana Kamasutra, the authors would like to promote a proper perspective of Vatsyayana Kamasutra and the underlying mechanisms of each formula. There are many texts available based on the original work presented by Vatsyayana. Notable are the Ratyasya, or the Secrets of Love, the Panchasakya, or the Five Arrows, the Samara Pradipa, or the Light of Love, the Ratimanjari, or the Garland of Love, the Rasmanjari, or the Sprout of Love, the Anungaranga, or the Stage of Love, also called Kamaladiplava, or a boat in the ocean of love. Among the English translations, Kamasutra by Richard Burton seemed to be the referred text.
Well, let's first start with the question, who was Vatsyayana? His real name was Malinaga Vatsyayana. He was believed to have lived between the 1st and 6th century. However, some works date Vatsyayana before Christ and as a contemporary to Patanjali. It seems that many people have used and quoted the works of Vatsyayana. These include Kautilya, who wrote Sutra for Arthasastra or economics, and Mahakavi Kalidasa, who also quoted Vatsyayana in his works. The exact number of sutras of Vatsyayana remains a matter of debate. Some works say it was 1,250. However, others say as many as 1,750 sutras were compiled. The motivation for writing Kamasutra was mentioned by Vatsyayana as follows. He mentions that Satakadni Satavahana, a king of Kuntal, killed Malayavati, his wife, with an instrument called Kartari by striking her in the passion of love. This is an interesting happening and needs further analysis. Kartari means scissors. According to the author's opinion, it would be very unlikely that the king of Kuntal killed his wife with an external tool. This would be an insane act, and a ruling king to indulge in such an act would not qualify him to be a king.
So what happened, Sreeja? Why was Malayavati killed?
Well, Isaiah, in some species, like spiders, grasshoppers, or bees, it is a common practice to see one of the mating partners getting killed by the other after the completion of the mating process. This act is known as sexual cannibalism. It also happens among the king cobra sect, lions, and polar bears, but not to the extent of spiders and grasshoppers. As already mentioned, the universal parents are invoked in the participation of sex, and the species, having physical bodies, become the witnesses. That means the faculties and senses of the species are being rested at the peak of the sexual act, or steered by universal forces. The physical bodies are just witnessing and supporting the universal cause, driven by the participation of the universal energy in the forms of the universal feminine and masculine energies. Whichever of the participating species faculties deviate from the witness mode will perceive the sudden flow of unconditional energy from the universal parents, and this will result in an overwhelming situation. The dose of this energy is too high for these species, and their faculties quickly get saturated and their soul immediately departs. This is manifested externally as getting killed by their partner.
Balakrishna applied the same technique while driving away the life force of Putana. Putana provides venomous malnourishment to Balakrishna with the intention of killing him. Balakrishna, while sucking her nipples, draws all the life force energy from the demon Putana. It makes sense that a similar thing would have resulted in the killing of Malayavati.
Yes, she was overwhelmed with the sudden surge of energy, and the dose was too much for her faculties and the vessels, so she perished. Vatsyayana, an evolved soul, would have deciphered this phenomenon and naturally prompted him to write Kamasutra. However, this was misinterpreted by many as a killing act by the king.
There are many such distortions of this original work of Vatsyayana. The author of The Secrets of Love, or Ratyasya, was a poet named Kukoka. Ratyasya, also known as Koka Sastra, mentions 4 classes of women: Padmini, Jatirini, Shankini, and Astini. Richard Burton, in his English translation, describes these 4 classes as follows. She in whom the following signs and symptoms appear is called a Padmini. Her face is as pleasing as the full moon. Her body, well clothed with flesh, is as soft as the shiras, or mustard flower. Her skin is fine, tender, and fair as the yellow lotus, never dark-colored. Her eyes are bright and beautiful as the orbs of the fawn, well cut and with reddish corners. Her bosom is hard and full and high. She has a good neck, her nose is straight and lovely, and 3 folds or wrinkles cross her middle about the umbilical region. Her yoni, or reproductive organ, resembles the opening lotus bud, and her love seed, Kamasalila, is perfumed like the lily that has newly bursted. She walks with swan-like gait, and her voice is low and musical as the note of a kuhila bird. She delights in white raiments, and fine jewels, and in rich dresses. She eats little, sleeps lightly, and being as respectful and religious as she is clever and courteous, she is ever anxious to worship the gods, and to enjoy the conversation of Brahmins. Detailed descriptions then follow the Chitrini, or art woman, the Shankini, or conch woman, and the Hastini, or elephant woman. Their days of enjoyment, their various seats of passion, the manner in which they should be manipulated and treated in sexual intercourse, along with the characteristics of the men and women of the various countries in Hindustan. The details are so numerous and the subjects so seriously dealt with, and at such length that neither time nor space will permit of their being given here. While the external description of these women may seem inappropriate, it must be said the 4 classifications are based on internal situation. Limiting our analysis to external physical world will distort the essence of Kamasutra. The 4 divisions of Padmini, Chitini, Shankini, and Astini truly represents the saturated forms of 4 faculties. Those who are having only blossomed intellect, like the lotus, and those whose Kamacharan is dominated by the lotus-like intellect are called Padmini. They exhibit the physical qualities as mentioned above. Similarly, Tritini represents operating with only the blossomed form of discretion, or Chidam. The Shankini represents the blossomed form of personality, and Astini has the mind of an elephant. It is easier to reach the state of saturation when operating with only 1 faculty as opposed to 4 faculties. And that's how these 4 classifications were made. This was distortion beyond proportion and wrong preaching over centuries.
There is no need to further waste time and resources by pointing out the misinterpretations on this monumental wealth. We will now begin with the sutras.
First Sutra, Dharmartha Kamebhyo Namaha.
Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha are known as Purusharthas, referred to as human pursuit. However, these 4 divisions are based on the 4 faculties of intellect, discretion, personality, and the mind. They do not represent an external pursuit, but rather an internal pursuit.
Chaturvarnyam Maya Srishtam Gunakarma Vibhagasa Tasya Kartaram Apimam Vidya Kartaram Avyayam.
In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna said, Chaturvarna Maya Shrishtam Guna Karma Vibhagasha. This is an extraordinary sloka. Krishna did not mention when this division was made, but gave us a clue. That is, Maya Shrishtam. Maya refers to illusion and the planet Mars. Hence, this division of 4 classes, based on the 4 faculties, happened on planet Mars, during the previous world. The same 4 divisions in Dwapara Yuga transformed as Purushartha or Dharma, Arthakama, and Moksha. This represents the constant evolution of the human species.
Sreeja, what is the essence of first sloka or Sutra of Vatsyayana?
Well, Isaiah, Nama when reversed becomes mana or mind. Nama means limiting the oscillations of the mind between the faculties of intellect and discretion, or more specifically, anchoring and conditioning the mind's oscillations to the water element of intellect and earth element of discretion. While the faculties of intellect, discretion, and personality have acquired and pursued the qualities of dharma, artha, and kama, the mind is oscillating between dharma and artha. Dharma implicitly also includes adharma. Dharma means a virtue seeking change in accordance with time and space, which is the manner in which the faculty of intellect functions. Artha means discretion not coming under the influence of illusion and acting in accordance with intellect and personality. Kama is the karma charan triggered by personality by turning the fire element into the earth element of discretion. And finally, the faculty of mind oscillates between intellect and discretion. Mind is the corridor of intersection between the faculties and senses. Hence, by default, the senses are aligned to the mind. And the external action, or karma charan, is steered through intellect and discretion through dharma and artha. This formula, when practiced and applied, will promote the functioning of all the faculties. Dharmartha Kama is also known as Trivarga. Here, Trivarga means three grandies or knots. These are Brahma Grandhi, Vishnu Grandhi, and Rudra Grandhi. So Dharmartha Kambeyo Namaha refers to the faculty of intellect residing in Brahma Grandhi, the faculty of discretion residing in Vishnu Grandhi, and the faculty of personality residing in Rudra Grandhi, and the mind oscillating between Brahma Grandhi and Vishnu Grandhi. The controls of Grandhis will result in the control of the Kundalini energy flow.
The number of letters of this sutra are between 8 and 9. 9 refers to the 5 senses and 4 faculties. Hence, this sloka promotes reaching a fullest potential of karmacharan through the 5 senses and 4 faculties.
Kamasutra number 2. Sastre Prakrutatvat.
Sastra is a sacred scripture that provides unadulterated and true information. Those who practice the information in Sastra will get connected to Prakriti or nature. What does nature mean? The breathing cycle of the harmonious state, or the union of the universal mother and universal father, consists of breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in the union of the universal parents is the conglomeration of power or intent, or sankalpa, of all the living beings. It is known as Vikruti. Breathing out the union of the universal parents will manifest as Prakruti, or nature. In other words, when breathing in, the universal parents absorb all the vikalpa of the living beings, and in return through breathing out, give us the beautiful nature. So what does the sloka convey?
Those who are able to perceive the true information of Sastra, or those who can see through the hidden wealth of Sastra, they get connected to universal parents' breathing cycle through the nature. The number of letters in this sloka are between 7 and 8. Hence, this sloka promotes reaching Ardha Shodasa Vidya technique.
Kamasutra number 3. Tatsamayava bodhakebhyaschacharyebhya.
The sutra, when expanded, Tatsa plus Maya plus Avabodhaka plus Abhyasha plus Acharya plus Abhya. Thought is an unmanifested form of cosmic energy. Tatsa is perceiving unmanifested cosmic energy through sattva gunas. To transform the unmanifested cosmic energy to a manifested form of cosmic energy, the curtain of Maya or illusion must be removed. Avabodhaka is the content or information, which is not in the preachable form because these are unmanifested and filled with illusion. Hence, we need the guru from Acharya who is familiar with practicing this unmanifested cosmic energy in sattva guna. To acquire this wealth of knowledge through this guru and putting it into practice is the essence of the sloka. This sloka or sutra or formula teaches us the practicing of unmanifested cosmic energy through Shodasa Vidya. The numbers of letters of the sutra are 15. While the first and second sutras have 8 letters on each side, which is half Shodasya Vidya, the third sutra represents practicing complete Shodasa Vidya. In this sloka, the external form of guru or acharya was mentioned. While the real guru resides internally in Agna Chakra, those who are qualified in the first and second sutras are eligible to raise to acharya or external form of guru. The prime example for this hypothesis is Visvamitra. Visvamitra, after performing penance for thousands of years, turned outward and perceived Gayatri mantra through the nature.
For this reason, it seems that Vatsyayana Kamasutras have to be followed in a regular sequence, and they cannot be randomly attempted.
Kamasutra number 4. Tat Sambandhat.
The wealth of unmanifested cosmic energy can tap into sattva guna and can be practiced and implemented through Shodasa Vidya. After getting qualified in the third sutra, the individual is automatically drawn into the family of sutras related to this. So the individual can exercise the freedom of choice on how to practice unmanifested cosmic energy into sattva guna through Shodasa Vidya.
Kamasutra number 5. Prajapatir hi praja srishtva tasam sthiti nibandhanam trivargasya sadhana madhyayanam shatasahasrena gre provacha.
This sutra has close to 45 letters and hence represents the 45 different Vasikaran techniques. Prajapati means Brahma. Those who respect the Creator and His rules and practice the Trivarga in the manner outlined by the Creator will be able to evolve their faculties 100-fold more than 1,000.
1,000 represents the training imparted to northbound faculties of intellect, discretion, personality, and mind towards unification with the southbound under the supervision of 24 guru forms. Sata Sahasra means 100 times higher unified energy than what was possible with 1,000.